So I am Jasmine Loveys. I work at Norwest Media Centre as the public realm producer. So I look after lots of projects that are out of our building, out and about in various locations in the area. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the producer that will be working with the appointed artist or group of artists on this project over the coming year. So as you hopefully have seen from all the info that's been out, Filwood Broadway, which is our high street in Norwest, is having a lot of regeneration work next year. So that work is happening across 6 different zones locally over the street. And that is a mix of housing, retail, revamping of public space and renovation of the Filwood Community Centre building, which is at the top of the Broadway. So there's a whole mix of stuff happening, and that's obviously going to cause a lot of disruption across that street for next year. So the Media Centre, we are leading on public art across Filwood Broadway. So we're working with Bristol City Council, and we are working with local residents and various other stakeholders like local businesses and the different kind of project delivery teams who are going to be delivering all of that regeneration work as well. So we are looking to commission an artist or a group of artists to work across Filwood Broadway for the whole of next year as the area is going through this physical change. The appointed artist or artists will be paid a fee of £30,000 for their work across that year. And we are looking for the appointed artists to work closely with the local community to shape what that creative programme will look like for 2025. We've been having lots of conversations over a long period of time with the local community and with all those kind of various stakeholders to look at what are the priority themes that we should be exploring through this residency, and also thinking a little bit about what those potential outcomes or outputs could look like. They're all listed in the artist pack, so if you haven't had a full read of that, please do. But just to highlight a few things. So in terms of priority themes, Norwest heritage is a really big one that we feel should be embedded throughout the work. This idea that its past should influence its present and its future. Community voice and leadership should be at the heart of the project, and particularly around involving young people as the kind of future custodians of this space. So making sure that young people's voices are really embedded in what we're doing. And also thinking about centering safety and belonging. And at the Media Centre, we work with this care practice, and we would like whoever we work with to also kind of have that as part of their work. You know, care is woven into everything that we do. In terms of outcomes, obviously this disruption phase means that the high street is going to look and feel quite different over the next year, and there'll be less opportunity for people to get together. So as part of this residency, we would like there to be space for pop-up events and opportunities for people to gather together in whatever form that might be. We'd also like the artists to come up with creative ways of keeping local people informed of what's happening on the high street. That could be anything from physical interventions, you know, like big display board type things, to something digital. One of our stakeholders was talking about time-lapsing some of the building work and things like that. So we're really open to what those things could be, but it's that kind of creative and playful storytelling of what will be happening on the Broadway over the coming year. We would also like out of this residency some ideas and designs for semi-permanent or permanent interventions or structures that could be installed on the Broadway. So this would be as a kind of lasting legacy. The idea would be whoever is appointed could work with the local community to come up with some ideas of what these things could look like. And we would then have another team that could kind of make those into a reality as well. And we'd also like lasting artworks alongside the more temporary or ephemeral ones. So that could look like many things, but it could be documentation or video or a book of collected, poetry or writing or whatever that might be. So who is this residency for? We're looking for an artist or a group that have 5 or more years experience working in a socially engaged way. The reason we don't know all of the creative outputs yet is because we obviously want input from the appointed artist, but we also want these things to be decided by the community. So it is essential that an artist comes in with an open mind and a willingness to collaborate with community members, so that their voice and their ideas are really central to all of the work. So coming in with a fixed idea of what you might want to do isn't going to work in this instance, but having a kind of, a selection of ideas that you think might work and then co-creating that with the community would work. Creatively, you can work in any form. You would need the skills to be able to deliver a variety of creative experiences across the year. But again, those are really open. So, and we also know that that is a lot to ask of just one person. So we do have some additional budget available to bring in other creatives that can support that process. So, for example, if the community, if residents decide they want to do a pop-up dinner and they've got an idea of a local chef that they would like to work with to come to collaborate on that, we have additional budget to be able to pay for that person's time to bring them in to deliver that. We also are looking at having a separate budget for taking any designs into a reality. So any designs of permanent or semi-permanent interventions that could be installed in the public space on the Broadway. We've got additional budget for things like architectural support, planning, materials, fabrication and installation. So we're not expecting one person to be able to do all of those things. The artist fee is a fee that the artist will get. So there is additional materials and event delivery budget alongside that. So that is one pot of £30,000. So if it's a solo artist, that person is paid £30,000. If it's a duo, potentially 15,000 split, or if it's a collective, then we would work with you to work out how that pot is split amongst the different people. When the artist is appointed, we'll work together to map out working patterns and to shape the year of what next year would look like. We don't expect this to be your only work during the year, but we would expect that it's your primary focus, so that whoever is appointed can really embed themselves in the community and be physically present in the area as well, on a kind of weekly or semi-weekly basis. The artist pack has got loads more info in there, so hopefully you've had a good read of that. And that gives just a very brief overview of what we're after. The closing date is Friday the 29th, which is next Friday at midnight. And then we've got an interview date of Thursday the 12th of December. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute or to put things in the chat. As you like.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. So on the brief and the artist pack and stuff, there was a kind of emphasis on digital technologies. Is that quite important to the project that your practice has got a kind of digital focus to it?
So when we say, digital focus, it's quite broad, really. So in terms of what you do, your work doesn't have to be necessarily kind of digital based, but I guess we would be expecting someone to use digital tools in some way. So that could be through the actual work itself in terms of what you're doing, or it could be through things like digital fabrication. So we have our Norwest Media site at Leinster Road. So here we've got kind of workshop spaces, music studio, that kind of thing. And then we also have our factory space. And over at the factory space, we've got loads of digital fabrication tools, like laser cutters, 3D printers, CNC machine. digital embroidery machines. So there are also, if you don't feel like if you're not a digital artist, there are still ways in which we would expect you to kind of embed that digital aspect into your work, but it could be through that kind of fabrication. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. I had a question on the chat where if we're looking primarily for local artists. So we haven't been specific about where we're looking for people to be residents from, but there would be an expectation that you would be physically coming to Knoll West a fair amount. So we do have a small budget for travel. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's not massive. So being local to Bristol or being willing to be based here for a part of time is kind of essential. We also don't have any budget in this for accommodation, so that's just something to bear in mind as well. Solo artist looking to collaborate. It's Kid Carpet, Ed. Anyone looking for collaborators? Yeah, if anyone is wanting to put together a joint application, brilliant. Just link some people up there. And how strict is the criteria of 5 years experience? Yeah, we've put that as one of the conditions. If people don't have 5 years experience, then we wouldn't think this residency is for them, because we are looking for someone who's really well practiced in working in a socially engaged way. Rachel, you've got your hand up.
Hi. I wanted to ask about like physically, what will the access be like to Filwood Broadway during that time? Like, will people be able to access that street at all? Like, if you got the residency, like, would it make sense to like take up residence in like a space on there? Yeah, like what is the potential for things to happen physically in the space?
So as far as I understand it, the construction work will be happening in kind of 2 phases. So they'll start in a section, I think it's like 2 bottom sections, and then they're going to move up, if that makes any sense. So the idea will be that not all of the street will be cut off at any one time. All of the local businesses that are currently operating will have access maintained all throughout. The community centre at the top of the Broadway, that will be closed from the end of this year for renovation. So that will not be a usable space at all. But the community centre staff are going to be kind of decamped elsewhere on the Broadway. So we have potential to collaborate with them and potentially share some space with them, depending on where they end up. There is also the library, which is at the bottom of Filwood Broadway. That will remain open. So that will be another accessible space. And the library's team are really open for us using that space out of hours as well, or for using it to do things while, in their normal operation. And then we also there will be kind of other patches of land potentially that we could run activity in as well. So yeah, it's not kind of, I don't think we have a solid plan of exactly where we can get to, but there are usable spaces on Broadway. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Please. Any other questions? So there's a question about linking into more info about the regeneration generally. If you go on the website, there is a link on in the artist pack. It's in one of the first pages, and it just says if you want to know more about the work. But I can also try to email out a link after. But it's on the Bristol City Council. I've got loads of information about all the different kind of elements of what's happening. Just to give like a general overview, there's the Filwood Community Centre at the top is being renovated. We have the former cinema site, which is on the west side, and that is being turned into housing, but there is some retail on the bottom floor of that as well. There is also a new multi-use games area. So that's being built actually at the bottom of the Broadway in Filwood Fields, so just over the road. And the games area that's currently on the Broadway will no longer be there. But yeah, they go into loads more detail about all the different kind of elements of that. And also the public space, the actual road layout is also going to change. So at the moment, you've got a kind of a split carriageway, but they will be one road, and that road will be amended, the layout of that. And that will create more public space. So things like a potential market square, and there'll be that green space on top. And the road, Barnstable Road, which is outside the community centre, will be pedestrianised as part of this as well. Any other questions?
Hi, I've just put my hand up there, but
hello, yes.
Hi, I'm Leo. 2 questions. Are all the local community organisations already on board? So when the artist comes in, it'll be fairly easy to kind of begin work immediately.
Yeah, so as part of this process, we've been chatting to the council over the past year about this. And in terms of the different stakeholders, so for all the different levelling up projects, so all those different kind of construction projects, if you like, we've had a public art workshop with all of those different people, because we want this to be looking at the Broadway as a whole, rather than looking at, the community centre as one bit, the old cinema housing as another. So they're all really on board with this. And we've also been chatting to local businesses about the artists coming in, and local residents as well. So as part of all of the levelling up regeneration works, there are regular public forums. So we've been at all of those, kind of chatting about ideas and plans as they develop. So we've got input from the people about that. So yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time. Yes, so people are definitely on board.
All right, great. And another question, I came in late, so I might have missed this, but I'm just wondering, I came in late to the conversation, so I'm just wondering, it might have already been discussed, but I'm wondering, is there a space for the artist to use as a workshop, office, meeting room or anything that is dedicated or will be?
So the media centre, both sites are open for the artists to use. In terms of physically being on the Broadway, we're trying to figure out if there is potential for a meanwhile kind of shop space. It's not been confirmed yet, but we do have that library space available as well. So that's something we'll kind of work out together once the artist is in place.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No worries. There was a question, is there any resistance to the development? It's a good question. Local people have been consulted to death over the last decade about what plans might happen in terms of regeneration. So there is an element, I think, of, is it actually going to happen? All of this money that's tied up in the regen is due to be spent by the end of next year. And of those elements, the first one has already been delivered, which if you've been to the Broadway, you'll see there's a new play area, like a kids' playground. So that was the first thing to be done as part of all this work. So I think people are hopefully reassured that things are happening. Yeah, and there's a lot of feeling about some of the heritage sites. So the former cinema site, when that was knocked down, it's a beautiful old building that people felt really strongly about saving as a community space. But yeah, so it's a mix, I think. Someone else had their hand up. Ben, you've got your hand up.
Yes, hi. It was just a question about the application process. Tell us about your approach to collaborating with partners, community, and stakeholders. Is that the only space to include a response to the brief? Is that what are the expectations there for responding to the brief itself?
As in sort of telling us about ideas for what you
Yeah,
might
because
want
that's
to do next
obviously,
year.
is other ideas in there, or is that specifically in a question about an
So,
approach to working with those stakeholders?
yeah, I mean, we've got a question there about why you're interested in this residency.
Yeah, so it
So
can
I'd
be in
probably
there.
include some of it in there, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, tell us about your approach. If you've got ideas about, you know, specific people that you might want to work with, or ideas for collaborating with different groups locally, then yeah, pop that in there as well.
Okay, great. Thanks.
A question about how much focus will there be on biodiversity? Yeah, I mean, biodiversity and climate change is a priority theme for us. In the past, we've done nature walks down the Broadway, kind of looking at, you know, spaces that people don't think of as good for wildlife, and thinking about how actually there are lots of spaces for that in areas that you wouldn't normally think of. We've got a lot of green spaces locally. We've got Filwood Fields at the bottom. So yeah, there's plenty of scope for that. It depends obviously on what the artist is bringing and what the local community feel that they want to be kind of looking at as well. Molly, you've got a hand up.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I was just wondering, like, what are your hopes for how this residency outcome is? Is it about creating a sense of belonging? Is it about purely documenting a process? Like, at the end of the year, what are your hopes for the residency?
So for me, at the end of the year, we'd like local people to feel like they've been involved in that change in some way. And in terms of kind of, you know, the creative program, if you like, we don't have kind of fixed ideas about what those things should be. Part of it will be about storytelling, part of it will be about looking at public space and how that can be used in this kind of new form when things are redone. Yeah, for us, it would be about local people feeling like they have some ownership over that space and have had opportunity to keep in touch throughout that kind of period of disruption. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I ask, is it possible to apply as a part-time artist on the project? So apply as a kind of job share to do, say, 2 or 3 days a week?
Good question. So I think we would like, if there was a kind of job share element for that to have already, for you already to have an idea of who you might be sharing with. But we're definitely like, we're totally up for people like linking up and submitting something together. But yeah, I think we'd like you to have that in mind, because we've then got that additional budget. If you do need to bring in extra people, there is space to do that alongside, but we'd really like kind of those relationships, I think, to have been formed before application.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you.
No props. Any more for any more? Well, thank you so much for coming along, and it hopefully is going to be a legendary project. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, it's really exciting, and you know, we've never worked in this way in kind of over an extended period with artists before. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really exciting year. So yeah, good luck with your applications. My info is on the website, so if you do think of anything else, feel free to email me or give me a call. My usual working days are Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So yeah, please get in touch. And yeah, I look forward to reading everything. Thank you so much for your time. Take care. Goodbye.